everyone, welcome to DNA. Today our special guest is Frederic Khoury, and we are going to talk about what it's like to be a trader. Welcome, Fred.
Thanks for hosting me.
Fred was a trader about 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
And now you're an investment director.
That's right.
So let's talk about this upfront, actually. Was your life as a trader anything like the Wolf of the Wall Street at all?
No, it really isn't like that. So Wolf of Wall Street is an extreme version of trading that really isn't close to reality in what you would see today. It might have been true 30 years ago, who knows, but today it's very different.
All right, so I'm glad we're gonna have this conversation now so we can demystify what it's really like as a trader. So let's start with why you wanted to become a trader.
In my case, I always had been passionate about capital markets, equities in general. And so since I was a young child, I was interested in stock. And so for me, becoming a trader was something that was quite natural.
Wait, since you were a child, you were interested in stock?
Yes.
How did that happen?
So
were your parents working in finance?
No, not really. I was already reading economic journals, trying to follow certain stocks that I like. So it always got me very excited and pumped up. And in fact, used to decide on trades with my dad. So that got me excited too.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Cool. You're the first one that I know was interested in stocks since you were a kid. So then your dream finally came true. You became a trader.
Exactly.
You worked on trading. But how was your first day? Was it anything like what you imagined?
It was quite impressive. So on my first day, I arrived on the trading floor. And what's quite interesting is the way the trading floor is structured. It's a massive open space with probably 500 to 600 people lined up next to each other on desks.
Open desk area.
Very open space. And the reason why they have that is so that information can travel very fast and people can permanently interact and reach to each other for advice or analysis.
Gotcha.
And so each person, at least in my team, had 9 screens, so that's quite impressive. Basically you have 3 screens by 3. And you have a bunch of information you track on a daily basis.
Oh wow, 9 screens. I must get super distracted. I wouldn't know where to focus at all. Why do you need 9 screens?
So
Are you looking at the different markets?
You're looking at different markets, and in fact, since the team I was in, the market's very fast-paced, so you need to be able to look at everything with the blink of an eye, and not by, changing windows or clicking.
You also mentioned that open space is easier for people to exchange information.
Yes.
So was trading a collaboration across the team or it's more a competition? Because the price change at any second, and if you tell the other person to trade first, it's going to impact your trading strategy, right?
Not really, because the way it works is you have a floor with 600 people. Teams tend to range between 5 and 10 people, and so each team has a product they're responsible for and that nobody else will trade. So within a bank, it's very collaborative, and people tend to help each other because it's in their best interest. But among banks, that's where the competition is.
Gotcha.
Competition for clients and for business.
But tell me, what your day-to-day was like as a trader?
As a trader, what's different compared to other jobs is you would tend to go in the office pretty early. So the day would usually start around 7 a.m. would likely end around 6, 7 p.m. at night.
Is it because it's correlated with the market hours?
Yes, it is related to market hours, but the markets, at least in the US, start at 9:30 a.m. But people do show up earlier to check that everything is fine. As a trader today, the work has evolved, so the technical skills are more necessary than ever before. So I would say the job today would be split in 3 big components. The first component would be to research signals and trading strategies so that you can manage your risk and your book exposure. So there's a bunch of statistical research you perform. The second big component of the job is you tend to have a position that are substantially large. And so you need to manage your risk and be aware of what your book is doing. So this is where the 9 screens you have come in handy, because you can, within the blink of an eye, take a quick look. And then the most important and fundamental part is to serve your clients, because this is really the core of your job. So they would call you and request help to trade, request large blocks they would need you to execute on their behalf, or provide liquidity for them in a principal way.
Gotcha. Is that why in the movie usually you would see the traders always on the phone?
Yes, yes.
Although they were always yelling at the phone, I don't know why.
So the movie needs to be a bit dramatic to please the public, but most of the time you'd be surprised at how silent on average the trading floor are. I mean, you have people on the phone, but they definitely do not tend to shout, except once in a blue moon when there's a big mistake that happens.
Gotcha. Or when there's a big way, you guys want to cheer for the success also, right?
Yes.
Do you guys ring a bell?
The bell rings at the open and at the close.
Oh, okay.
But you will not have somebody ringing it physically. It's like automated now.
Okay. Probably ringing it physically, like 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
When you trade and when you are talking to your clients, do you usually make recommendations? Hey, this is what I see on the market, and I suggested you buy or sell this stock. Or do you usually execute what the clients want, but provide them feedback on whether it's a good strategy or not?
Clients usually would not want to share with the banks their views of the market. They would more come for advice on what is the best possible execution. So as a trader, really your specialty is to find liquidity in the most efficient and cheap manner for the client, and that's where he will ask for recommendations.
Gotcha.
Within banks, you have research team who are specialized on having an opinion on European equities, US equities, certain industries, and that's really the typical people or clients will speak to when they want recommendations on their trade ideas or use the bank as a sounding board.
So how big was your book usually? How much money do you have to trade every day?
I wouldn't be able to give you the specific number for myself, but what I can tell you is traders in banks would usually trade, in most banks would trade in the hundreds of millions of dollars per day. So it's pretty important amounts.
What would you say was your favorite part about being a trader?
I think there are a couple of very exciting parts. First, every day is different. You don't know what to expect when you go at work. The second thing I would think is the job has a certain intensity. So it definitely is a more stressful job than others, but people like it. They get excited
like
about the stress and the intensity.
Is it because you feel challenged?
You do feel challenged, you have to think all the time, you have to be aware, you have to pay attention to many things at the same time, so that's challenging and exciting. And the third component that is quite exciting, you find it in a bunch of industries, but I think specifically in trading it's quite important too. Teamwork is crucial. Nothing can be done by anyone on their own. So when you're working in a large institution such as a bank, as a trader, you would need the help of the IT team, you would need the help of the researchers to have an opinion on industry, you would need the help of quantitative models that are developed internally to have smart order routing systems, for example. So there's a permanent teamwork among team that makes it also quite exciting, because then you can learn from each other and benefit from each person's expertise.
What would you say was the biggest challenge when you were a trader?
I would say the biggest challenge and the most important requirement is the extreme attention to detail. So a mistake or a lack of attention can be extremely costly for the person and for the bank.
For sure.
I mean, people have seen in the past large mistake that ends up being very expensive to the shareholder and to the people that usually do lose their job in their team. So mistakes aren't allowed in a certain way, and you have to be very careful with what is done and never go too fast and not think enough.
Would there be trading support people to help validate the number before you actually execute? So it's not like all dependent on one man?
No, it would be dependent on the trader, but you have many IT checks that would happen at many levels in the systems to prevent the worst mistake, which is a fat finger. So let's say you want to buy 50 S&P futures and you end up buying 500. If the nominal isn't expected by the machine, you will probably see a flag, hey, be careful, you entered 500, is literally what you want to do, and then you would need to click a second time. And a check as simple as that can avoid many mistakes. And that's just a simple example, but you have security checks at multiple places.
Tell me what the long-term career path could look like for a trader.
And like many other industries where some people could join and think about, oh, I'll do a couple of years there because then I can get access to this industry or this type of job. People usually join trading are passionate by markets and see their career as traders and want to stay there as long as possible. So typically people would stay in trading and just little by little become more and more senior within the bank. And some people will also join buy-side firms still as traders and trade for them. Interviews process are quite different than in other places, and that is true across most banks. You would tend to find a heavy component of brain teasers. The second set of questions that you tend to find quite a bit is everything that's market related. What's your view on the US economy? What's your view on emerging markets, etc. The third and most important, I think, part of the interviews would be fit questions. So,
like cultural fit?
Yes, cultural fit, because remember, if you ever saw a trading floor, you have a desk that's 20 meters long with basically each person having 1 meter of length. And so what it really means is you're sitting 12 hours a day next to people you see more than your family. So it's really important that you can spend the entire 12 hours a day, 5 times a week with them and be happy about that.
Traders can be very aggressive on trading floors, just like in the movie.
I would say it's not so true.
You said that sometimes it's even silent on the trading floor.
Yeah, so what you can see in movies about trading is people bursting out and exploding. It does happen, but definitely not at the frequency that you see on Wolf of Wall Street or other funny movies about trading. What tends to happen is people do explode, but it's not, I think, at a much higher frequency than anywhere else.
And why would they explode?
Because a client order was handled poorly, a client is unhappy and is complaining, some IT glitches prevent them from doing their job. Many, many reasons.
Traders earn a lot of bonus when market is great.
It is a tricky question because...
And you feel this way about earning a lot?
I mean,
this?
So it is a difficult question to answer because banks keep their numbers very secret. And so top performers can sometimes even have 7 digits. It's not so dependent on market because some talented people can do very well in a down market.
Along with a high bonus, there's also a high risk involved in the job. As you talk about that, the details really matters, right? People think that it's very easy to lose your job in a minute as a trader because it's so easy to make a mistake.
Yeah, I would say yes.
And you're happy about it?
Huh?
Your reaction to the emojis is completely different as what I would expect you to choose.
Oh, really? It is an industry that assumes that you're talented enough not to make mistakes. And it is very clearly stated that above a certain level of risk or of losses, the people will lose their job.
Traders love playing pokers. Do you like playing pokers?
I do like playing poker, but I would say yes, but probably they're not playing poker every day or every week as it would be described.
When you interview for being a trader, you have to answer questions while drinking whiskey.
No, absolutely not.
No?
No.
Never?
Never.
Alright, I think it would be fun, like drink some whiskey, answer some brain teasers, talk about the market.
Never heard about that.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story today. It helps me to demystify what the life is really like as a trader. So no whiskey for interviews, no shouting at each other, yelling at each other, no ringing the bell in person. Basically, anything you saw in the Wolf of the Wall Street, scratch it. It's just a story.
Yeah, pretty much. The trading world has really evolved, and as it goes from a more and more technology-centered business, all the little human stories tend to fade a little bit.
Let's do this tradition together. What it's like to be a trader. DNA, get!